Hi, my name is Maria Ravelli. I am originally from Miami, Florida, but I moved here to Worcester about 10 years ago, and we've been here ever since. We love it here, and I am one of the organizers for Worcester Community Fridge. We believe that food is a fundamental human right and that nobody in this world should be going to sleep hungry with the amount of mass production that we have with food and the technology associated with food. The fact that there's so much food that's sent to landfill as opposed to just streamlining it right in the hands of the people that need it, that's an act of violence. So that's kind of how this whole thing was born. And our long-term goals is basically to make free food accessible to everybody. Really, the root of why these places are throwing away food is because food in general is so political and it's so overly regulated that most of these businesses would rather just throw the food right in the trash and put a lock on the dumpster because they're scared of like liability or people getting sued. There's such little protection for businesses distributing free food. So it's really such a shame because it deters businesses and restaurants from being able to get this food again in the hands of the people that like are starving and need it the most. So because this is a community-run mutual aid initiative, it's kind of hard to keep track of how many people are actually organizing, but we have about 30 like registered and active volunteers, but anybody that contributes or anybody that utilizes the fridge is an organizer in some capacity. So whether it's them, taking the food to make room for the next food drop, whether it's them doing food rescues, building direct connections with neighbors in need, in any capacity that you're kind of utilizing the fridge, in my mind, you're organizing in some way. So we have, as far as our organizers that are cleaning and in charge of maintenance, we have about 10, and they circulate. They're there at least 2 times a day. It's different individuals. We have a schedule that they all kind of follow. So they're there at least 2 times a day, giving everything a really good deep clean, rotating items, making sure that all of the food that's in there is meeting our guidelines. So it's definitely attended to often. It's in front of Fantastic Pizza, and that's on 910 Main Street. So this project was started at the beginning of January, like the first week of January is when I kind of put out that call to action. I'm part of Mutual Aid Worcester, which is this awesome group on Facebook where neighbors can essentially just say, this is what I'm in need of, and they kind of just connect with each other. So I put a post kind of briefly describing what a community fridge is. And Saket, the owner of Fantastic Pizza, which is where our fridge is located, immediately reached out and was like, let's go, I'm down, how do we get this ball moving? And everything just kind of moved quickly from there. I think that was definitely the motivator as to why we kind of, excelled this so quickly. There is such a high need right now of food, and there's so many families that are experiencing, or individuals in general, that are experiencing food insecurity, and there's so many barriers, additional barriers now in the way because of COVID regulations, that families are really struggling getting food on their table. So that was definitely an accelerator, but food justice in general is a humongous problem in this country that we're really trying to get to the roots of. So we have hand sanitizer and PPE kind of available right at the fridge for individuals to use. We're following kind of basic regulations, so asking that everybody wears a mask, sanitizes before and after, giving space to individuals when they're either unloading or loading from the fridge. So kind of just like common sense things. And then we have some core volunteers that are there at least 2 times a day. We're finding that they're there more often now, and they're sanitizing everything. So they take everything out, sanitize all of the things that are going in and out of the fridge at least 2 times a day. Yeah, so Worcester Community Fridges, or Woo Fridge as we're kind of known as now, we have organized 1 location. Right now, we have 2 locations in the works. So within like the next month, I would say, we have a spot in downtown and then a spot in Quinsig Village that will be operational like within the month. And then there's some awesome folks out at Save the Bridge on 300 South Bridge Street that they actually just opened up their community fridge right outside of the Save the Bridge building. It's basically the same exact concept. So they actually just opened it up on Sunday. So Worcester right now has 2 free food fridges that anybody can access 24/7. The amount of like messages that I get on a daily basis of just like organizations or just businesses or people just saying like, how can I get a fridge? Or I live in like this town, what are the steps to get this fridge? I think, with mutual aid, the limits are kind of like endless, right? Like we can really normalize free food distribution in this way, and make sure that everybody has like equal access to fresh food, which is just like a beautiful thing. So that we partner with a couple of different businesses and organizations in some capacity. The food itself is definitely filled most often by residents and making small drops often. We are partnered. We have a fantastic partnership with Park and Shop in Auburn. We rescue food from them that would otherwise get thrown away. And it's like hot meals, their produce and things like that. We're partnered with a couple of different food distributions. Angels Watching is an amazing one that we actually just received a humongous food drop from them. They rescue food from like Whole Foods. So we serve a pretty diverse population of neighbors there. So any food that you would want to serve your family, we happily accept. We can't take raw meat, is kind of the biggest thing. We can't take, obviously, nothing expired, nothing moldy, food that you would feed your family. And we're not taking homemade meals at this moment. So those are kind of the 3 biggest things. So no raw meat, no homemade meals, and then obviously everything that's like has to be non-expired and things like that. But just any food that you would want to serve your family or any food that you have in your fridge, we will happily accept. So mutual aid basically is like the self-organization and direct action of individuals. So it's all of us really coming together and organizing and figuring out how we can equitably distribute resources. And that's different in charity because in charities, it's usually a one-way relationship between either a person or an organization, and typically in a position of privilege. And they are the ones that are, kind of hoarding all of these resources and deciding who, how, and when these marginalized neighbors essentially get access to these resources. So we don't do that. There is no hierarchy within our community fridge initiative. It is essentially just whoever wants to come and take can take, whoever wants to come and give can give. We're not hoarding the resources and we're not determining who, how, and when gets them. So Worcester, I want to start off by saying, has some amazing food programs. The more that I think have been organizing and getting involved, I'm realizing that there are some really solid food programs in the city. With that being said, there are and there always will be barriers in the way of everybody equitably getting food. That can be, somebody that does not have an ID. That can be somebody that is working 2 or 3 jobs that doesn't have the time to go to these food pantries or these food box drops. There's so many different barriers that are in the way of people equitably accessing free food. So just to be able to have a fridge in the middle of the sidewalk, basically, and giving individuals an opportunity to get that food 24/7 is kind of what sets us apart. And I think too, when you think about accessing food with dignity, the fridge really gives these individuals that freedom of choice, right? Like I can go into the fridge and I can choose what things I want to grab from there to bring home to my family. And that's different than like a food pantry, for example, where they're pretty, it's kind of like, here is what we have, this is what you take. So we're giving people, choice with food, which is a really powerful thing. So because this is a completely community-run mutual aid initiative, everybody's role doesn't really fit in a box, and it's all kind of really unique. So this would be a cool opportunity for you to see what kind of influence you have within your inner circle and how you can organize within that power that you hold. So students or anybody really can run their own food drives, right? Where it's like, hey, I'm going to be running to the fridge on Friday afternoon. Like, I'll happily accept any food you want to bring over. And then they take it right to the fridge. You can solicit your friends or your families for funds and do a humongous grocery shop to drop over to the fridge. If you have a specific talent, if you're a graphic designer, if you're a podcaster, if you're, whatever thing that like makes you passionate, see how you can intertwine that with mutual aid initiatives throughout the city, because that's what it's all about. It's all about like, what is your specific talent and what can you bring to the table? So we don't necessarily have organizers that are like, okay, we need you to only do this one thing. It's like, these are the things we all need to get done, but what else can we do, or how can you do that differently? Organizing and things like that don't need to go through us specifically, because again, we're not a hierarchy. We don't want to hoard the funds and then redistribute, because then that becomes charitable, right? And that's not what this is. This is like, how can you use your power and your influence to like change the way that we distribute food? Spreading awareness is kind of the biggest thing with mutual aid as well. It's like, we've been, as a whole, communities have been so underserviced by the government and by different organizations that are supposed to be here to protect us, and they're really not, right? So we need to like now start gathering together and figuring out like how we can really start impacting change and spreading awareness about the realities of injustices in this country. And honestly, food injustice is humongous in college students as well. So like, please send anybody that you know that needs a snack or a hot meal or whatever down to the fridge. Our fridge knows no income barrier. So like, just go and help yourself. This is us saving food from landfill. So no shame, go and help yourself to food that's in that fridge. Mutual Aid Worcester is a phenomenal Facebook group. There are thousands of people on there. And if you are in need of something, or if you have a surplus of something, you go there and like, we will figure out in some capacity of how to get that spread out or how to get you what you need. Our Facebook group for the fridges specifically is Worcester Community Fridges. Just yesterday, there was a woman that lives about 20 minutes outside of Worcester, and she is disabled, so she's not able to get to food pantries. English is not her first language, and a lot of these organizations are not super accessible to different language speakers. So within like 20 minutes of her coming into our group and putting this post up of saying like, hi, I'm not able to get to this fridge. I don't have any other resources. What can I do? Within 20 minutes, we were able to get her a grocery delivery to her house. And we have a meeting with her tomorrow. I'm going to speak with her tomorrow about getting her some long-term food services in her area. So as much as this is us just like opening this fridge, it's also opening that conversation of like how we can get equitable food to everybody. So that Facebook group is really powerful, Worcester Community Fridges. And then we're also on Instagram at Woo Fridge. And those are kind of the two platforms that we kind of spread our message. So if we ever are low on food, monetary donations are humongous. Just this morning, we were pretty low. So I was able to go to the grocery store and get some staples. So we are at Woo Fridge on Cash App and PayPal, and then $Woo Fridge on Cash App.